Hello everyone, and thank you for clicking on another one of my videos. I am Screen Scene Guru, coming at you with a weekly channel update. This is on television I've been watching, and movie and TV news I've been keeping my ear to. So without further ado, let's get started. This video is going to be going over some old stuff and some new stuff. So going right into it, I was catching up on Season 3 of Daredevil from the Netflix series from 2018. I didn't watch this last season of it because I really hate endings and I didn't want to kind of have a farewell to the character Matt Murdock, Daredevil. I thought that after the events of The Defenders, I thought that was it for the character, but they did have a surprising third season that I heard about, but I didn't hear very good reviews on it, so I was hesitant to watch it for years. And then with the resurgence of Daredevil Born Again, their new Disney Plus series, I'm hearing really good stuff, guys. It's all out, available on Disney Plus to binge. So I started watching the 2018 Season 3 final season, and I thought this was a fantastic season. Picking up after the events of The Defenders. If you guys haven't watched that, I highly recommend it. It is now on Disney Plus, as well as the other seasons of Daredevil, the Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and I believe Iron Fist series are all on Disney Plus now. So really awesome news for Marvel fans. I'm not sure if they're going to reboot some of these characters for the new Daredevil series. They've been kind of hinting towards that. But going into the 2018 series, we've got Episode 1, Resurrection. Shattered physically and spiritually, Matt remarks his purpose and place in the Hell's Kitchen. Meanwhile, Fisk puts a plan in motion to free himself from behind bars. So I thought this was really interesting, this tale of him corrupting the FBI agents, Redeem, and others to secure his freedom in the presidential hotel, which I thought was very interesting. This was, of course, in 2018, so a lot of political, stuff at the time was, people were really upset, of course, about Donald Trump's first term. So going into, was that during Biden era? I'm actually not sure if that was during Biden or if it was, I think it was during Trump's term. But going on to Episode 2, we've got Resurrection, we've got Please. Grieving for the life he's abandoned, Matt suffered a crisis of faith. Fisk makes a deal with the FBI that turns him into a target. So yeah, going on to the story, Fisk, of course, secures his freedom by saying it's too dangerous for him to be in the prison system now that he's gone rat. Then moving on into Episode 3, No Good Deed. As Fisk moves swiftly, new digs amid the public outcry, Matt wrestles with how far he's ready to go, right this wrong. Dex aims towards his focus. So we get introduced to Dex's character, Poindexter, which is, of course, Bullseye, which I thought was a very fascinating character. Kind of brought up like Matt, where he didn't have a lot of close family relations when he was young. And he was, given these skills, these abilities that weren't very often. Not a lot of people had these skills, but they grew up and became eventually like assassins. So a very different, darker tale for Bullseye compared to Matt's upbringing becoming Daredevil. But they kind of show in Season 2, when he fights Punisher, Frank Castle, that he's just one bad day away from being like Frank. And he's trying to fight his inner demons, if you will, the devil inside. Going on from Episode 3, we've got Episode 4, which is a top-rated episode, they're saying, Blindsided. While Matt infiltrates a prison to find an informant in the Albanians, Fisk puts Dex in his crosshairs, and fed up, Foggy goes on the offensive. So really cool fight sequence with prison in episode 4. Blindsided. We are seeing, Matt trying to recuperate from the building collapse and him being, nearly killed. He goes to the monastery or the church, and is taken care of by the nuns. So we get to see that awesome stuff going on. From there, we've got, let's see, episode 5, which is titled, The Perfect Game. To quell the rising backlash over his release, Fisk serves up a scapegoat to the FBI. Dex misses his mark when he runs into a woman from his past. So this is kind of an origin story for Bullseye, and kind of getting to know how he was treated by a therapist until his therapist died. He had his session tapes to go back and kind of give him structure, until, of course, he ended up destroying them when he met Wilson Fisk. He corrupted him and kind of radicalized him after he was a former soldier. So I thought that was very interesting story plot. Going on to episode 6, we've got The Devil You Know. This is when Bullseye steals Matt's suit, or I guess they end up building a whole new suit to give to Bullseye that looks like Daredevil, that the Knight ended up making from the comics. But The Devil You Know, driven to the edge, Dex loses his way until he is offered a deal of a lifetime by Fisk. Matt comes to Karen for help, which she agrees to give on one condition. So again, this season we get to see, Matt's distant from Foggy and Karen. He's not wanting to put them in danger, so he's trying to pretend that he's dead. But that, of course, he comes to get their help, and they're really reluctant to help him because they thought that, he was dead for this time. So a lot of drama between, of course, Foggy and Karen. Going on to episode 7, we've got Aftermath. The press crucifies Daredevil after the attack on the Bulletin, which is a newspaper. Agent Nadine, suspect in the FBI, paid too high a price for Fisk's cooperation. So this is when he finds out that Fisk is controlling the FBI. Episode 8, we've got Upstairs Downstairs. A desperate Dex reaches out for help. Matt forms an unlikely alliance with Agent Nadim. Great performance, by the way, I thought, of him and his family. And Karen conducts a dangerous plan to provoke Fisk. This is when I believe she is interviewing him. Going on to episode 9, Revelations. Matt's already shaky world tilts when he learns a shocking truth. Karen runs for her life. Nadine discovers how deep Fisk's influence runs. So this is, of course, when we get to find out that the nun that's been taking care of Matthew underneath the church is, of course, his mother. Really shocking, but of course, if you read the comic books, you guys knew this story was going to happen. But I think that people that watched it on Netflix didn't know that was going to be a plot turn. But the comic book was very obscure for a lot of years. Not many people read it, besides hardcore Catholics and others. But he was likened to Batman in the Marvel universe, and Moon Knight was likened to Batman. But Daredevil's kind of always been a smaller, obscure comic. But people who read it knew this nun was his mother. But going on from episode 9, we've got episode 10, Karen, hunted by Fisk and hunted by mistakes from her past. Karen seeks refuge at the church. Matt finally gets his shot, and Dex goes in for the kill. Some more carnage from the Bullseye. getting to see all of his skills, deadly skills. It would be cool to see him in Thunderbolts, or even Matt, since it's in New York, thinking that this show just got done, this new series, Born Again. It would be cool if they had an Easter egg for Daredevil, potentially the new season. But I'm hearing they're going more towards the route of Fantastic Four. It's very interesting stuff there. But moving on from episode 10, we've got Reunion. Episode 11, Dex tries to run his prey to the ground. Nadim's coincidence kicks in, and Fisk looks to recover a gift from Vanessa's seized during the incarceration. So, of course, he's looking for that painting. Then we got episode 12, One Last Shot. Fisk's long-term reunion doesn't go as planned. Nielsen Murdoch take on a new client who holds the key information to Kingpin. So I thought this was a really cool episode, number 12. They're also saying it's top rated because of the fight sequences with Nadim and Daredevil. I thought it was really cool, awesome, where he was showing him where to shoot his gun and when to wait for people around cars and different things. Very cinematic. This season in particular went into organized crime and just how corrupt government are, and the government officials that have coerced their way to get favors over on others. So I thought that was really fascinating. Of course, we got to see Vanessa return to the United States from her extradition, where she was in Spain. So they've been paying to have her moved around and kept safe by bodyguards. So we get to see her return in episode 12, I believe. And then episode 13, A New Napkin, was their season finale. It was also a top-rated episode on IMDb. But Matt prepares to cross the line as Dex becomes more dangerous than ever, and Fisk enacts his endgame. Okay, it's a very interesting terminology there, because in 2018, that was when Infinity War came out. That was before Endgame, so I like that. Fisk kind of took his plan and started it. He initiated his Endgame. We see a lot of violence in this episode. A lot of violence throughout the whole season, really. It's very bloody in the way that they just kind of take out figures that know too much. So like I said, organized crime, a lot of realness to the Daredevil series that we didn't get too much of. And I'd say season 1 was real, and then season 2 with Punisher was real enough with the guns, and then season 3 was just really raw and into itself, because we got to see sequences where Punisher was talking, Wilson Fisk was talking in Matt's head, the Daredevil's head, and his father. There were sequences where he spoke to his father, similar to Dexter, but I really liked the season overall. I binged it in the last 2 days. So season 3 of Daredevil on now on Disney Plus. I highly recommend you guys if you haven't seen it already. So moving on from a bit of the old stuff, going into the new stuff. I've been catching up on Andor season 2, which has been just fantastic, guys. If you haven't been watching the new season, of course, they have had articles and news stories about this 3 episodes we're getting per week, starting, this was back in April 20th, for my birthday week. Woohoo! We got 3 episodes, which was a year after the events of season 1. The 3-episode increment arc was, I thought, really fantastic. Of course, we got to see episode 1 year later, an uncoverable mission, a sanctuary threatened, and a Chandrillin wedding, a chilling imperial plan. So we get to find out where everyone's been, what they're doing. We see Cassian sneaking into a imperial testing ground, kind of like Skunk Works, or one of these aerospace facilities, to steal himself a new TIE Avenger, I believe. They have this Lego set to go check out, guys. It has been teased before in Star Wars Rebels as well. So I thought this was a really fantastic, so cut clean and realistic shot. The way he tried to steal it and they closed the doors and he had to blow a bunch of stormtroopers away and eventually cut a hole in the building and launch out. I really liked it. And of course, he got stuck on a planet which we thought was just a random forest world with a bunch of rebels that captured him in episode 1. And we got to see Mon Mothma preparing her daughter for her Chandrilan wedding. So that was really fun to see. And then, of course, the Imperial plan on, I believe, what is their planet called? Let's see if they mention it. Gorman, yeah. The spiders that weave the silk for all their clothing. Very interesting to see. Krennic return from Rogue One. That was really awesome. Going into episode 2, we've got Sagana Tima. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. But Cassian caught in a rebel turf war. Mon's wedding woes mount. And the Ferrex survivors face inspection. So a lot more to do on this wheat world where they're growing a crop. The survivors of Ferrex trying to hide from Imperial persecution, but of course they're everywhere now, going across the galaxy, doing an audit, seeing how much resources they have. I thought that was really fascinating to go into how they tax the locals of each world. We got to see that a little bit in New Hope when the moisture farmers, were being persecuted by stormtroopers. So that was very interesting to see. Them being really, I'm not exactly sure when Star Wars was adamant about immigration, but I guess now they're kind of going into the political side of having your papers, and of course not being from the worlds you work on. That new now being a thing. Very interesting. The show was shot 2 years ago, but it's more charged for the now times that are coming out. So going into the last episode that happened last week, Harvest, which was their top rated episode. Time is running out for everyone. We got to see the wedding take place. Beautiful, gorgeous tapestries or clothing they all wore, gowns. And then we also got to see Cassian get off that planet. It was actually Yavin 4, where the rebels eventually gather and take off to attack the Death Star. So interesting to see the early days of the rebels. They were all fighting amongst each other to survive, and then eventually they teamed up to organize. But we also got to see Cassian got to save his friends, which was Biggs, and I don't believe they got the robot though. I think they left the robot behind at the end of the 3rd episode, which might come back in the storyline. But very interesting stuff there. Luthen trying to make deals, of course, with different people to get trading and different secret relics out of places during the Empire's Imperial expedition. But fascinating that they haven't really gone into much of the Empire. Or, I'm sorry, the Emperor. They haven't shown where he is, even though they've referenced him with Tarkin and others meeting. But going into this week, we got episode 4 through 6. I watched episode 4 and 5, so I'll discuss those. Episode 4, Ever Been to Gorman? Cassian and Bix adjust to a Luthen safe house. All eyes are on Gorman. Without visits, Saw Gerrera, or Whitman visits Saw Gerrera. So again, these next 3 episodes are another time jump. We see Cassian and Biggs adjusting on Coruscant, even though all the war and the people are trying to fight against the Empire is happening slowly but surely. We see Luthen getting older and being more bold, taking less, being less careful with his chances now that there's so much chatter going on the messages. So I thought that was very fascinating. Their comm link was totally new and a very wide span range for their comms, so I thought that was really cool compared to season 1. Then going on into episode 5, we've got I Have Friends Everywhere. Cassian on Gorman, Cyril on Coruscant, Bix failing, Whitson trapped, and Kyla has a serious problem. So this episode we got to see, of course, the people of Gorman, who I believe they're speaking kind of a French accent, if not very European. Gorman is kind of set up to be Europe, an invasion of Europe, sort of. And they're trying to set up that the Empire wants rebels on Gorman to attack so that the Empire can crack down on the locals and have a reason why they need to be there. So I thought that was really insidious, and of course Cyril is playing into Dedra's plan, and then Cassian is warning them if they do this and they plan on living there, it's not going to end well for the rebels there, so he's warning them about their moves. But going on from what I've been watching, television stuff, I've got a little bit of movie and television media news jotted down that I'd like to discuss. Starting with Lucasfilm has announced it's celebrating 20 years of animated projects, which is really fun to see, starting with their original Clone Wars 2-part animated television series that was done in 2002 to 2003, right before Revenge of the Sith, which has a re-release in theaters right now, which I thought was really cool. They've counted that, and then all of the Clone Wars movies that Dave Filoni did, and of course the 7 seasons of Clone Wars, and Rebels, and all the others, Star Wars, what is it now? I believe they have a Younglings series, which I haven't seen, but also Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi, Underworld, coming series like the Darth Maul, Shadow Lord series, but 20 years of animated projects, which is really cool. Of course, we know Sean Levy is officially directing the next Star Wars film that we know about, Star Wars Starfighter, coming out in 2027 with we've got I believe he is Ryan Gosling, yes, who's going to be the Starfighter in that film, set 5 years after the events of Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. And then, of course, in 2026, we're going to get the Mandalorian movie, directed by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. I believe both these films are going to be the return to Star Wars, the Mandalorian film, and this new Starfighter film. Really interested in hearing about those. Recently, we've heard about Toy Story 5 being talked about, with Tom Hanks and Tim Allen addressing that they're both in the studio for Pixar, recording their voices for their roles respectively for Woody and Buzz. And Tim Allen kind of letting a little slip to the press and media about how Toy Story 5 will primarily be about Jessie and her story of how she's leading this new group of toys, and that their new child that they're companioned with is focused more on the internet and cell phones than playing with their toys. And Jessie does no longer want to be neglected, and she leads her band of friends to escape the house, which is similar to Toy Story 3 and 4. And of course, we're going to fight evil Buzzes, a group of evil recalled Buzz dolls. Tim Allen said he's got a great space sequence, so it sounds a lot like Toy Story 2, where Jessie was introduced. And then, of course, we've got the Hunger Games announcement that they have officially started their casting call for Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping. I haven't read the book. I've heard diverse different views of the book. I've heard from some people it's really great. It's about Haymitch and his games, which I'm very fascinated in. This is going to be the first male-led story for Hunger Games, besides the crazy Capitol leader, President Snow. This is going to be the first male competitor, so that might, I think, be really good for the franchise. Even though I've liked the women's stories thus far, but of course they can't go back and do another one with, what is it? I almost said Scarlett Johansson, but it is, what is her name? trying to think. She was in a space movie with Chris Pratt. Jeez. She was also a Mystique, but I can't think of it. Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence is said she wants to return, but the writer of The Hunger Games said there's no book for Katniss after Mockingjay Part 2. So unfortunately, and she's only writing prequels now. So there's no storyline for Katniss to return, unfortunately. A new Miami Vice is being adapted, even though we just got one 20 years ago, which I didn't see, but with Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx. A new one is being made now, currently. We've yet to hear the casting of it, but we've got the director of Top Gun Maverick to do it, to shoot it, which is really encouraging. Andor Season 2, like I said, I did a review of it. Chris Claremont discussing Avengers Doomsday roles. So this is another speculatory news we heard at a recent con event. That Chris Claremont, he's a well-known publisher and writer on X-Men comics and graphic designer. He was asked by fans at a con event what their roles are going to be in the film. Now, he does not have any kind of script details or any kind of exclusive press access, but he, of course, wrote the comic books back in the day, and he knows primarily what the story is, so a lot of people are speculating that that is what he's talking about, not, in fact, the actual film. It got released in several news articles like Variety and the Daily Mail that he was talking about the film, but in fact it sounded like he was talking about his books that he'd worked on. But Chris Claremont supposedly discussed several actors, including Robert Downey Jr. playing multiple roles, Chris Evans playing multiple roles, like he would in the comic books. But it's very interesting that he confirmed it in a sort of hints. But very interesting. What do you guys think about this? I'll probably leave a link to it down below. But before I leave you guys, now that I've gone through my reviews and my comic book television shows, now I want to do some more reviews. But first, I'm going to put on what I got for my birthday 2 weeks ago from my brother. I did a review on it. If you guys have seen my review or not, go back to my channel and check it out. But I'm going to be putting on my Green Goblin Marvel Legends helmet and doing some book reviews real quick. Alrighty, so starting off, I'd like to go into my Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire. I've already got to, let's see, chapter 9. I really recommend getting this book, guys. If you're interested in the current timeline of Star Wars, where we're going, the Mandalorian movie in particular, I think Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau will be heavily interested in adapting this book for Ahsoka Season 2 as well. Also, there are 2 sequels to the books. I just want to get them out real quick. Dark Forces Rising, and then, of course, The Last Command. So I need to pick those 2 up and do a review of those after I get done with this. It is a 32-chapter book, so I'm just kind of cracking it in. But I've loved the story so far. It's 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. We're following Commander Thrawn and, of course, Luke, Leia, and Han. So, really interesting story there. Definitely check it out. One more thing real quick, guys. I want to do a review of Magneto and the Dark Seduction. This is like a crazy comic book from 2001. Fascinating story. This is about Magneto trying to convince his daughter, Scarlet Witch, that he's changed. He's cultivated the island of Genosha from the oppressive humans into being a paradise for both humanity and mutant alike. Very fascinating that she responds to them cultivating Genosha as a UN ambassador, similar to X-Men 97. And we see that she's just sent in as a distraction. But I love the advertisement they have for the original X-Men. I don't know how well you can see that. They had dolls. I thought that was fascinating. Smoking Hot, Scarlet Witch, and it turns out she was sent in as a ploy so that they had enough time. Let me find the right page. It's another nice one. To where the UN could sit in their special task force, which turned out to be, of course, the Avengers. So a different group than what we typically get for the Avengers. But I thought this was a fantastic comic book, and it came out in 2001. So definitely check it out if you guys haven't already. Also, check out those shows I recommended. Daredevil Season 3, Andor Season 2. But I want to thank you guys for clicking on another one of my videos. You guys can click the like video if you want to support my channel. Make sure to comment down below what your thoughts were. You guys can share my video if you want. Be sure to subscribe on my Instagram and on Threads for future content. But until next time, guys, have a good night and take off. Woohoo! I'm looking for Spider-Man.